this is Grace.
Hi, this is Allentail, but you can call me Matthew.
This is Hannah.
Hi, this is Emily.
Hi, I'm Abby.
Hi, this is Jamie.
And
this is
Adventures in Absurdity.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back.
Hi.
Hi. We've got Emily, Grace, Jamie, and Hannah this week. Yay. And we are discussing Love is in the Air. And we're all excited about that one.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to talk about. And if you can hear my cousins in the background, please ignore them.
Life happens, it's all good.
Love is in the Air was written by Paul McCusker and directed by Paul McCusker, produced by Dave Arnold, Paul McCusker, and Mark Very, executive producer Chuck Bolte. Plot is Love is in the Air around Odyssey. First of all, Jason is working under the freezer at Wit's End. Oh, that's really long.
Oh,
A
wow.
second.
That
Okay.
sounds like a full synopsis.
It was. I'm not going to do that. Okay, here it is. Katrina Shanks and Tasha Forbes arrive back in town, causing all sorts of romantic hijinks with Eugene, Jason, and even Connie.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Connie gets romance? What? No.
What?
No. Well, I love the opening scene of this episode.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh wait, should I make the announcement first before we talk about the episode? Y'all, we're on Spotify
Yeah.
now. Hello.
Hey.
Also, other podcasts. I know we're on actually Google Podcast now, which is like what all the Android phones have. That's
Hey.
exciting too. We're on Anchor and they take you to different links. I think we're on 4 or 5 different podcast places. We have not been approved for Apple Podcast yet. Waiting on that one.
Check us out, everybody.
Yeah. All of our episodes are up there. Okay, so we'll go back to the and the podcast on Spotify is the YouTube edit that is appropriate for all ages.
Okay.
If you want the extended versions, you still have to go to Tumblr. Anyway,
Yes.
the opening
Where's the-
scene. Eugene is shaving his mustache.
I like how it takes about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yes. Or as later in the episode, Jason says, shave it? More like pluck it.
Yeah. Boy,
Then time for the aftershave.
Yes. That scream is just iconic.
so
It
good.
is.
Yeah. And then I like to think that this episode has 2 opening scenes because the next one is fairly great too. Like, so Eugene
Yeah.
shaving his mustache is the cold open, and then you have the opener that really
Yeah.
introduces you to the episode.
I agree with that.
And that scene is just iconic, I think, personally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jason keeps knocking his head. And I just think that I just keep thinking of that line, Tasha's line from Name Not a Number. Careful, your head's hard, but it's not that hard.
Yeah.
The habit returns.
Oh.
Personality quirk now.
It really is.
I'm getting a concussion. I'm like, another concussion.
Jason just bangs his head against things when he gets upset, and I feel like that's definitely canon. Like,
Mm.
Bonk. Yeah. I just have to say the dialogue for both episodes, like all the way through, is just so perfect.
oh my goodness,
It
this episode is. I know I wrote somewhere like, it's just A+ chef's kiss writing classic
Yeah.
Odyssey. The
It's
whole
Yes.
episode.
Odyssey. And I like when I
Beautiful.
went to see who wrote it, I was like, it's Paul.
Of course.
Aw.
This is one of those action adventure episodes who are easily up there with my favorites, even though it has no like big action sequence. It's just amazing in every way.
Yeah.
Mhm. I also like at the beginning, Connie talks about how Jason is fixing everything, and Jason's like quick to shrug it off, and she's like, "No, you are smart and you are really good at this." And I'm like, Connie just calling it out, like, you know,
Yeah.
Jason's supposed to like shrug it off, and you're like, "What is she doing, man?"
Yeah, no, she's like, I think you know everything there is to know about everything. And he's like, no.
You fixed the whole building. That's why it doesn't go bad anymore. Jason fixed it all because he was so bored.
Uh, couldn't go fishing during day hours.
Yeah.
Work.
Jack Allen can't be at the store the whole time.
Exactly.
And then Tasha shows up after Jason has hit his head. Maybe that's why Jason was proposed so suddenly. He had a concussion.
I wasn't thinking straight.
He equivalents head injuries with romance.
Yeah.
So he's just, last time I hit my head, she said, I love you. This time I hit my head, I propose.
And maybe that's why he believed that Connie didn't have a crush on him so easily.
I know. I thought that. I was like, why does he actually believe her?
And then believes it's on Eugene. Like, really? Really? Has he not been talking about Katrina forever?
Oh, I just like when Connie's like, wow, something's different, Eugene. Like, she definitely was just pretending not to notice. Like, I really think
it's like such sibling vibes. Like, guess. I just don't know.
And Jason's under the freezer, like, Connie, I swear, just say it, Eugene.
When Jason and Tasha leave or whatever, and Connie's on her whole, I don't like her. She's like, she's not Jason's type. I'm like, so you know what Jason's type is, huh? You're his type, huh?
Yeah. Realized when I listened to it this last time, Tasha was like, wow, Jason rocking the overalls. And I was like, oh my gosh, if someone doesn't draw Jason with overalls right now. Bye.
Emma.
I never realized that. Emma, where are you at?
I only noticed it this last time and I was like, I need to see this.
I will say, like, when Tasha comes in and they're like, she's like, oh, we used to work together, and Eugene was like, and what did you do? And they're like, oh, just boring analyst work, and they're trying to convince them, like, and Jason, he still does not have a good response. Like, honey, you should be able to respond to this by now, no problem.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, it's boring, and Connie's like, sure, and Eugene's just like fully like enthusiastic.
Oh,
fascinating. Like, he wants to know more, which I feel like Tasha and Eugene could really like go at it intellectually. Like, she's super smart.
Yeah, for sure. Especially because like he's more into chemistry and she's more into biology, so they would just be like learning from each other. And they would be like, yeah.
Imagine them like trying to look at the mineral together from the Blackguard saga, like both of them working together. They would have figured that out super quickly because they each had their own half of.
Yeah.
True. Reasons Tasha is important.
Content we should have gotten.
Okay, so at the beginning of this episode, when Tasha first showed up, Eugene hadn't met her, right? Like he asks who it was. I think.
Yeah, he introduces them, and I don't think they cross paths in Name Not a Number.
I don't think they ever met. I know he says your friend Tasha's on the line.
Yeah.
He never formally met her.
Yeah, I don't think they had met. That was a nice catch.
I also like how when she gets there, Jason's just like, forget the freezer, like, you get to the office.
Tasha.
I got this.
He's just like, nothing else is important. Tasha is here.
Priorities.
Never mind.
I thought I hated Tasha, but now I'm like, it's Tasha!
Y'all ship Jason and Connie, but we don't all like Tasha, so...
Yeah, I think we just have mad respect for Tasha.
Yeah,
for sure. And we also, to some extent, respect her and Jason's relationship. Not the whole she wasn't a Christian thing, but if you just take that out of the picture, like, you know.
He can't be with Connie if we'd want him to be with Tasha.
Well, my next note is when Eugene and Connie are in the office for the first time. And Connie goes, Jason's really good at reading the Bible, isn't he? And Eugene goes, after the 7th try, and I was like, wow, me, I can never talk.
So something I caught about that, so like Gene had like Jason's audio running. Did anyone notice like Connie knocked, like Jason stopped talking for a second? Was that like Eugene like pausing it, or did they like intend Jason to be in there and then they're like, no, we're gonna change that? It didn't sound like in a recording. It sounded like he was in the room.
I thought maybe the recording was like the knock was part of the effects Eugene was adding in for the recording, because he says like knock and then the sound happens and then he says and the door will be open to you. So I always just thought that was part of the effects Eugene's putting in, because otherwise the pause makes no sense.
I always thought it was just an ironic mistake at an ironic time.
That's possible.
Well, after Connie knocks, doesn't it start over and he goes knock, and then knocks, and then you hear knock in the door, or am I making that up? Because
No,
I
right.
think I always assumed that Eugene heard that and he rewound it, and maybe he was going to add in a sound effect or something.
Or
Maybe once he heard the knock at the door, he hit the rewind button, or I don't know. That's a good catch, though.
Rationalizing their mistakes.
As we often do. Oh,
Jason was secretly just sitting in a corner.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way they used to record things, he was probably he might have been speaking it, but at the same time, I can see them using an actual recording of it. Also, this episode listening experience was even greater, just imagining Townsend, like, sitting in a chair. I don't know if he did it back then, but...
That was the best find of my entire life.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I appreciate that.
And now I also like to imagine Jason just like sitting on the counter, crisscross applesauce or something.
He would.
Being like, get off the counter!
And then try to wipe it down. Get your nasty feet off my counter.
Oh my goodness! If Connie and Jason were ever to get married, she would get after him for that. Like I can see, he's the kind to just prop his feet up wherever, whether it's on the kitchen table, the coffee table, sit crisscross applesauce on the counter.
Exactly. He's just like
that. He probably does it at J&J Antiques.
There's no one there. His feet are up on the counter, and then they come in. And Chair almost tips over.
Falls backward.
Jillian knocks the stool out from underneath of him.
When Connie is saying that, she's like, because Eugene thinks that she's jealous of Tasha, and she's like, jealous? Why would I? No! And he's like, I'm like, that's me. Eugene is me.
Eugene is everybody that ships Jace Connie in this episode.
The episode was weird too, because it's like throughout the entire episode they're trying to convince you that Connie honestly doesn't. They're giving you all these excuses as to why Connie does not have a crush on Jason, even though she clearly does.
It's so awesome.
So random. They even had at the end that whole thing where Jack is justifying it or whatever, how it's not actually a crush, you just want excitement. No.
Yes, I have a note about that. I'm going to save that till closer to the end. But yes, I have a note about that. I'd like to discuss them.
I have no notes. I'm just talking.
I also like Tasha being like, I quit the agency. I'm like, sure you did. She's like, I'm leaving.
Both of them.
No, she's not.
Both of them. I quit the agency. Album 50. Both. Wait, what are you doing here?
But can we talk about like Connie's crush on Jason had to be obvious enough for Eugene to be picking up the cues on it, though. And he's not known for picking up cues still, like more emotional stuff like that. Yeah, I don't like. He's getting better.
Even just the opening scene, Connie is so like, can I get you anything, Jason?
I know. I wonder if they'd gotten like letters or something about Jason and Connie, and people were like, Connie's still in high school. And so maybe this episode was them wanting to like shake that off, and maybe that's why they're still so insistent about it. But I'm like, she's old enough now.
That hug scene between Connie and Eugene, like when Trina walks in, is iconic.
Yes.
I love it so much.
When I heard Katrina's voice, it caught me off guard because I'm so used to Audrey as Katrina now in like the newer episodes. I was like, whoa, who's this? And then I was like, oh, Katrina, duh.
And then Eugene.
Better
I still love that's impossible. She has a crush on Jason.
That Eugene is self-destructing and rants, and as he just says it, and he can't, and like the meltdown from it all and the awkwardness is just like chef's kiss.
It's
Hilarious.
It's kind of
Amazing writing.
And then Katrina's like, this is awkward, I'm leaving. And then Jason and Touch are like, bye. And Jack's like, good job, Eugene.
A nervous breakdown be suitable now?
Yes, for both Connie and Eugene.
Yeah.
I also like when Jack first comes in and Connie's like explaining her intuition. He's like, that's not intuition, Connie.
It's common sense. I think Connie's also like, she's 17, 18, and she's trying to move into like being a mature adult and, woman's intuition. She's a woman now.
I feel bad for Jack. He's just so confused the entire episode.
I love it so much, though.
I think Jack is pretty confused through most of it. Like,
Yeah.
Most of the series, he's just like there, and he's honestly a mood. Like, he's confused, but he's also spitting that truth,
Everything that happens with Connie and Eugene in this episode is funnier when you think about, I think it was before it, and when him and Katrina are actually dating and Whit thinks Connie and Eugene are a couple. An episode.
Yeah.
I think I forgot about
Because
that.
it's literally completely happening again with Jack.
Age-old confusion.
That's funny.
Katrina and Eugene's relationship is confusion.
This episode's really, I wrote it down however many places. I'm like, this is where the major toxicity starts in their relationship, I think.
Yeah.
It makes me sad.
Blame Brandon.
That's the homewrecker. I hate him.
Jason, though, when him and Tasha are talking in the car about Connie's crush on Jason, and he's like, so like, nah, she doesn't have a crush on me. I just want to be like, oh, bless your heart. Like, you're so naive.
He just really doesn't want that drama in his life at all.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no, everything's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Nope.
He just wants to be like non-confrontational about it, like just relax.
And then when they end up talking about it, he's like, I don't want to, and Jack's like, that's too bad.
Yes.
And then Connie's wiping down the slide in the rain. Right, Mr. Whitaker?
When they found out Eugene and Connie were hugging in Kids Radio Studio, Jason goes, really? And Connie's like, it's not what you think.
I don't know.
So
Well, Tasha, I'd like to know what's going on. No,
Yeah.
Eugene, well, it's probably because Jason doesn't want to acknowledge that Connie doesn't have a crush on Eugene because that means Connie has a crush on him.
Yeah.
He's like, it's an excuse. I'm using it. Goodbye.
Like, let's get out of here. And she's like, but I want to know. And he's like, no, get out.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think he just didn't want to hurt her feelings, though.
That too, I'm sure.
You can tell when he's talking to her about it, like, he doesn't want to hurt her feelings. He gets so excited when he thinks she does have a crush on someone else. He's like, yes, thank God. Like,
Hey, not me.
yeah.
And well, you'll always have Connie.
And you can tell he also wants to know who it is. He's like, you like someone else? And she's just like,
Again with the sibling vibes, like the big brother, ooh, who do you like?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the one thing. I'm like, I do get super like sibling vibes from them, which then I'm like, well, but I also like them together, so I don't know how I feel about that, but
Yeah, it is a little bit conflicting.
Yeah. It's kind of like your friend's older brother, how you like see them as also your older brother, but then like sometimes you end up having a crush on them. Like it's a lot like that. Like it's not like he's her older brother, it's just like he's her best friend's older brother.
Because this episode, it does seem like a little girl crush.
Yeah.
Like some teenager having a crush on this big older guy. And but later on, like we're not basing all of our ship off of this episode. Later on, we have moments where it's not like this, and that's the point. All right, we were talking about Eugene and Katrina's weird relationship. So Eugene clearly thought they were still dating.
Mm-hmm.
Katrina's just like, yeah, I'm dating Brandon. And it's like, what? Did
Also-
they not talk about this at all?
How could you do this to me?
But she brings it up, yeah, I guess we're dating, and then she's like, but in some ways he's more than a counselor, and I'm like, girl, if that's the case, then this relationship between you and Brandon is not healthy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
find that so weird. I don't like
And then in their departing statements, she's just like, "All right, and I'll come back to you." But I thought you just
Love
said you were
you.
dating Brandon.
No.
Yeah.
feeling a little confused.
Yeah. Going back a little bit though, when Eugene, this is after like Eugene has gone off on his rant about how how Connie has a crush on Jason, and then Jack confronts Eugene about it. He's like, "If this is true," and Eugene goes, "Oh, it's true," and you're just like,
He's very confident.
he's very confident. And then when Jason comes in the morning to tell Jack and Eugene about them being engaged, them trying to like let him know that Connie's in the back and shouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then Eugene speaking Pig Latin.
I know. One, and I was like, I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah. It's perfect though.
And then that's when Jack tells Jason he needs to talk to Connie because she goes out into the rain to clean the playground. And he goes, "I'd rather go back to work for the agency. It's safer." But for real though, going back to work for the agency is safer than living in Odyssey, and you can't change my mind on
Yeah,
that.
it's true.
Yeah.
He tells Tasha, he's like, it's so peaceful here. Like, they literally just, like, Blackguard just died. Like,
There was just a
Nothing
explosion.
happens.
peaceful. And I'm like, Jason, what?
You were just almost arrested for a death threat.
Yeah.
It's so
I'm
peaceful
funny.
here, yeah.
I wonder if Tasha took that call, like when he had them call the agency because of the death threat, and she's just like, Jason, no. Someone had to explain it to the police.
Yeah.
That would be really
When Connie drops all the pots and pans in the kitchen, that's still like
Yeah.
one of the best.
Yeah.
She's like,
Things.
so good. Okay, he comes in and he's like, isn't it a beautiful morning? And they're like, it's
raining.
That's exactly the same thing that happens later with Connie and Mitch. Like, she's the exact
Oh,
like, isn't it a beautiful day? And you hear like thunderclap.
yeah.
What? Like, they're the same. They're both so romantic.
I
Doesn't Mitch
know.
and Connie have a date in the rain, a picnic in the rain? They
Yeah,
have
it's
one
raining on them.
I think it started raining on them. Wasn't like intentionally.
Conspiracy, they were at the same spot at Triple Lake.
Well, is there anywhere in Odyssey besides Trickle Lake to go though? Like
No.
even in the Green Ring, Connie, Penny, and Wooten were hiking around Trickle Lake.
Yeah.
The only nature place in all of Odyssey.
I love with the pots and pans thing. Like when Jason comes in, as soon as he says Tasha, you can kind of hear in the background Connie will start to get uneasy, and then we're engaged. Boom. She was listening.
Eugene and Jack are talking about Eugene and Katrina's relationship, and Eugene, he talks about, well, if we're being reasonable and sensible, like I understand, but if we're not, I don't.
Yeah.
That is, I feel that so much because I'm very much like a internal like imagination, or not internal, but imaginative, like let my imagination run wild. So I've also like learned to create a very practical side to counter that. So I really like love that line right there. It's hilarious and I relate to it very much.
Going back a little bit from that, when Katrina first gets there, like, first of all, that scene is obviously hilarious, but then when she sees Jason for the first time, Jason's like, "Oh, Katrina," and he like gives her a hug and stuff. And
Oh
that's
yes, and Connie's like,
That's
the
the
hug.
hug. Yeah.
Katrina and Jason are like actually friends, and it confuses me because in these two episodes, you can definitely tell that they're friends, but I don't know that we ever see them interact like ever again in the show.
I
We really
wish we
don't.
did. I wish we did.
It's like, I
There
don't know.
really needs to be more cross interaction between the adults that are interacting.
Yeah, exactly. I feel
Yeah.
because like we know they have Bible studies and stuff together sometimes, but we just don't ever get to see it, and I kind of wish we.
It makes me mad.
I also like Katrina's. You're rehearsing a hug for a radio show.
But yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. That's the Katrina I love and I wish I saw more of.
Yes.
Yes, the
There's a
sarcastic
lot of
side.
sarcasm in this episode, like from Jason and from Katrina, and like they throw in shit all over the place.
Awesome.
Eugene screeching, "A second time! It happened a second time!"
Oh, and that's when. Okay, so that brings us to Jack and Connie's conversation because that's when Connie walks in.
Oh my gosh.
Because Jack's
We had a whole thing about that.
okay. So,
Yeah.
this is my take. I understand, like, Connie's boredom, like, definitely understand that. The whole nothing really happens to me, total mood. And while
Yeah.
I totally understand and kind of relate to, like, making up a crush on somebody because you're bored, I feel like Jack totally invalidated her feelings for Jason. Like, he acknowledged her feelings of being bored, but just because she made up the crush because she was bored doesn't mean she doesn't actually have feelings for him, and you should still, like, talk about it. Like, you're just saying,
Yeah.
you're bored, so this is nothing, let it pass. I'm like, a crush is not nothing sometimes, you know? Sometimes it's something else. Don't tell her to get past it. That was my big deal about it. I was just like,
I see.
Yeah.
but I think
I
it's
had-
also just me being mad because they want to sweep Connie and Jason under the rug.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I do think that making up a crush because you're bored, like, I feel that because, like, right now all of my friends have boyfriends, and I'm like,
Oh,
Hi.
yes.
So, like, that's a big mood, and I definitely can see her doing that. But, like, I don't think that means the crush wasn't, like, actually a real crush.
Yeah, it's like they said the crush wasn't real because she made it up. No, that crush was real, and those feelings are real because you're making them up. Like, it becomes real.
Yeah.
Like,
They're
even
like,
if
"I'm
you're like,
bored.
oh, I'm bored, I want to have a crush on somebody.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Jason is somebody who's very easy to have a crush on.
She
Heard that.
I like read
Yeah.
a list of reasons, and it made me laugh so hard if I can find it. But
A list of reasons to have a crush on Jason?
yeah, she was literally like, I mean, if I was gonna have a crush on someone, you'd be a great person because you're good looking
Yes!
and you're intelligent
Yeah.
to be with, and I was just like, ah. Yes.
I got for that whole Jack and Connie situation, you know, when she's like, well, nothing ever happens to me, like she felt kind of like left out almost. And Jack was like, you know, like God has stuff planned for you. Don't worry. You just got to keep him in the center of your life. You know, get through it all. So, you know, I don't remember if Connie's grandma died before or after this. You know, like Connie went through some really big times in her life where her faith definitely got tested. You know, like her grandma and her mom and Jules and Mitch and all that stuff. And obviously she has like, I think she has like self-worth issues and stuff, but I don't know. It just kind of, Connie's life kind of sucks right now, and she keeps God at the center of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, if that makes any sense. But
Yeah, no, she's such an admirable person, honestly. Like, she has such a strong faith, and like being a kid who becomes a Christian before your parents and stuff, and like having parents who aren't Christian, I know that's like really hard. So I don't know.
It's not that nothing ever happens to Connie, it's that she wants something good to happen to her.
Yeah, right.
So true.
Like, even Wit's gone at this point.
Yeah.
And that's her, like, I
Like,
guess,
when her grandma
choice.
died, too. Like, Wit's not there.
Yeah.
She is Jack, but she doesn't have grandma or Wit.
She just met Jack, and we know she had problems with him at the beginning
Mhm.
because he wasn't Wit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also it's like it's not wrong to have a crush on somebody. Like, being upset because somebody admitted or like you've revealed to everybody that you have a crush on someone is totally valid. Like,
Yeah.
you know? But
For
also,
sure.
like, was she being a little bit sensitive to the topic of Jason and Tasha? Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
it's another one of those, like, that conversation is another reason I hope they don't keep her single forever. Because I've heard people argue, yes, let her have a happy single life, prove that it's possible. Yes, but, like, wise men of Bible have told her that she's going to find someone.
Yeah,
Oh.
and she made it very clear that she doesn't want to be single. Like,
Exactly.
I don't doubt that you can find happiness in being single and, like, just having a deep relationship with the Lord, but, like, it's very clear that that's not really what she wants.
The idea is that God will give you the desires of your heart, and clearly he's given her the desire to have a guy.
Right.
So,
Speaking of guys, though, there's a line where she's like, as if we can believe anything Eugene says, because and I was like, this is the same as Clint.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So salty at him. It's amazing.
Oh, I love it. But there's a few lines in here that it makes me mad that they could say them again now and they would still be right. Like, Jason says he feels like there's something missing, like, in his life, and he says, it's Tasha, and, like, then Tasha's gone, and it's like, there's still something missing. Like, he could say, I feel like there's something missing again.
It's
like,
Connie!
It is.
say it again 50, like, almost 50 albums later, and it's like, the fact that that hasn't been resolved is really frustrating to me.
Yeah. Or the fact that Connie still doesn't know what she's doing with her life, which the episode, What Are You Gonna Do With Your Life, was part of that same album.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, it's the next album. Sorry, next album.
But yeah, I had another line like that she said something, and I was like, why could she say this now and it still be the same?
the person who was really given development was Eugene. Eugene was given a whole lot of development. Everyone else is just kind of like, you're all the kids.
Well, I didn't get to quite finish the last part of the episode, but we got our classic running through the airport scenes, which are hilarious.
Jason and Eugene sulking in their girl problems.
Yes.
Oh, great. Oh, what is it? Jason mentioned something about basking in something is never good at this time of day, and Eugene makes
watching
comment.
the
He's like,
sunset alone means you're
wistfully.
Yeah.
And Eugene's like, no, or he's like, how do you know? And Jason was like, because I'm here to do it too.
The brother vibes they give off are just so perfect.
Oh, it's awesome.
I miss Eugene and Jason's relationship. We haven't got good Jason Eugene in these later albums.
Yeah,
we've gotten decent Jason and Connie though, which is
nice.
but not.
And we have a few episodes slated.
I know.
Okay, but in the episode, I think it was Jason who went on the little rant about not the end of the page or the chapter or the book, and Katrina's like, Jason, I have to leave.
Can't toss your heart around like a football.
And asked if she loves him, and she's like, do I love him? And he's like, I asked you first.
Oh, honestly, the monologues in this episode are so good. Like Eugene's monologue at the restaurant with Katrina, and he's like pounding his fist on the desk.
And then he's like, the
salad, yummy, try them.
Yes. And then Jason to Katrina, and then when Eugene gives Tasha the ring he got for Katrina. Oh.
What? One promise wasn't enough.
And I love how Tasha's so like blasé. She's like, of course we're still engaged. And Jason.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's like, you thought we were just gonna stop arguing because we're engaged now? Like,
yeah, that's so Tasha.
There's a line, it's way earlier, it's before he proposes to her, but she's talking about why she thinks Connie would like him, and she's like, you're reckless, and he's like, reckless, and she's like, yes, and like 5 seconds later he proposes to her, and I'm like,
you are talk about the proposal scene when he's like, kid, or risk being thrown to the hippopotamus.
Yeah, I think we should start a list of all the times Jason has been reckless. Every episode he's in.
Yes.
Every episode.
All the time.
I love the music they have playing, like Eugene and Jason are hunting for Tasha and Trina. Like, it was like action music, and Jason's like, he's like, oh, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission.
Yes. Okay, but he got that confession out of Katrina so fast. Like, I was like, honestly, he would be a good marriage counselor, and then he can send them to Dreams by Constance. Like, hello?
Ooh.
There was this line when Jason was talking to Tasha. I forget what they were talking about exactly, but I think they were talking about their witty banter. And he was like, and it'll go on for years to come. And I was like, oh, sad. Because it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yikes. Also, how smooth of them to have the like Sermon on the Mount recordings as part of the episode, and like each passage that like happens to be in there is relevant to what they're talking about. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
that was clever. That was very clever.
Yeah.
Jason is totally Eugene's wingman. Like,
Yeah.
like they, yeah.
I love Jason and Eugene's relationship in these albums because, like I've said this before, Jason always seems slightly annoyed with Eugene, but in a friendly way.
Yeah, it's
They're good friends. But Jason's like, can he just stop talking science for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that very first scene, I'm like, honestly, Jason, Eugene, and Connie give me like sibling vibes so hard.
Yeah.
Just like the way they argue with each other and stuff is so funny.
Connie's the annoying little sister. Hey, 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 hey.
Connie, ice cream on my leg.
Yeah. Oh. But she's all like dreamy eyed, like, oh, sorry.
Yes.
Fogging up the window over there. Okay, so next week we will be doing our first 3-parter.
Oh.
So, and it will be The Search for Wit.
Ooh.
Ooh,
Ooh.
Which
Jason episode.
I know.
So, disclaimer: we're also not affiliated with Focus on the Family, by the way. Please don't ever think that.
Today's episode was brought to you by Aram, the recording bot.
Where
We
can
are chaos. Goodbye.